All right, back for another beer review, and today is day 5 of Barrel Aged Michigan Week here on the channel. And today I have one last beer from the Griffin Claw Brewing Company, and they're out of Birmingham, Michigan. And this is their Flying Buffalo, the Coffee and Hazelnut variant, and this is also the 2018 vintage. So this is a Russian Imperial Stout that is brewed with coffee and hazelnut and then aged in bourbon barrels for 9 months. Comes in at 12% alcohol by volume, 55 IBUs, and at the time of review, this can is just under 6 months old. And I want to give one more thanks and shout out to my friend and viewer of the channel, Jeff, aka NoJinx. He hooked me up with this beer and pretty much all the beers that I'm reviewing this week for this theme week, and I truly do appreciate it, Jeff. In the description box, I will post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did of all the goodies he sent my way, although we're coming to a close here. I only have a few more to review from that beer mail. And yeah, so far they've been pretty damn delicious. So once again, thanks, Jeff. So yeah, I reviewed on Monday the Great Lakes coffee variant of Flying Buffalo, and it was pretty tasty. So this one is brewed with coffee and hazelnut and then aged in bourbon barrels for 9 months. On the side here, it says, our Russian Imperial Stout is combined with organic fair trade, freshly roasted coffee beans and toasted hazelnuts, and placed in bourbon barrels where the trifecta rests for 9 transformative months. It's hard to read on here because they alternate the background and like it's basically gold on gold writing, so it's kind of tough. But anyway, it says the resulting Flying Buffalo emerges from its oak slumber with a perfect harmony of blah, blah, blah tasting notes. So yeah, anyway, we're going to pour this, see what we got going on. I'm pretty pumped up to see the difference between this one and the Great Lakes coffee one, because I mean basically the difference between the two is this one uses hazelnut and that one didn't, and that was a pretty tasty beer. So we'll see what the hazelnut brings to the table. Now, one thing I am noticing about this beer that was very similar with the Flying Flying Buffalo, they're all Flying Buffalo, was that the Great Lakes version is that they pour out this like really deep murky brown, and once again, in the glass, it's not pitch black. It might come off like that on camera, but it is this deep murky brown, has about a half finger of a straight up light colored brown, I'd say light brown head I will go with, or like a darker tan. But yeah, it looks slightly creamy, but it's dissipating, so can't really tell. Yeah, it looks slightly creamy. Anyway, let's get a nose on it. So believe it or not, I think the coffee is a little bit more in your face in this one. It's a little bit more intense than the Great Lakes one. Yeah, tons of coffee, little bit of nuttiness from the hazelnuts. One thing I will say about the noses, now comparing the two, they both have subtle barrel characteristics in the nose. Now, when I drank that coffee, the Great Lakes coffee version of this, man, it was very subtle in the nose. Then you taste it and it was like, boom. You totally know it's barrel aged. You totally know it's 12%. Same thing with this one. Everything's subdued. If you hear a dog barking, it's because I mentioned this in yesterday's video. It's springtime. Dogs are outside going nuts. Lots of stuff happening. So I do apologize if you do. I don't know if this picks that up. You know, sometimes I'll pick up like the train that passes by. That's really loud. I don't know how loud the dog barking is. He's going ham. Anyway. Yeah, so the base Russian Imperial Stout, there's dark chocolate, there's roastiness, a little bit of dark fruit too. I'm getting like a figgy plum vibe. But then again, the coffee's there, the hazelnuts there, a little bit of the barrel aging, slight vanilla and oak tannin, just straight on bourbon presence. Yeah, it smells pretty good. It smells quite cohesive and kind of just, you know, everything is, you know, blending together with one in perfect harmony. But I feel like this is setting me up, not for disappointment, but like it's going to be like a surprise sneak attack. Maybe not though, because I know based on the one on Monday where it just hit me and like on the palate was completely different. Anyway, let's get into it. Thanks again, Jeff, and cheers, everyone. Huh. No, it's, let me go back and, it's definitely a little, I can tell it's a big beer. It's boozy. Wow, everything in the taste is just, it's very subtle. So this didn't do what the one on Monday did, where it just kind of punched me in the face with flavor. So first thing I can tell you is this is a bigger beer. Would I guess 12%? No, but I guess probably 10 to 11. It definitely has a booziness on the palate. There's a big like alcohol drying presence as well, a little bit of chest warming. But on the palate, I'm getting mostly like Imperial Stout characteristics. I'm getting a big roasty, like almost bittersweet chocolate vibe. Getting a little bit of that coffee midway through the palate, a little bit of that nuttiness on the back end, but this has a huge dryness that the one on Monday didn't, and it also finishes relatively bitter, which the one on Monday didn't as well. The reason I'm comparing them is because they're very close aside from the hazelnut. So, you know, experiencing both of them, and they're probably released around the same time. Yeah, that's why I'm comparing them, and honestly, this one is not doing it for me as much as that one. The body is a bit thin, lower side of full body, higher side of medium body. It's not super thin, it just, you know, it isn't 12% thick, like it doesn't have the viscosity a 12% Russian Imperial Stout would have. The mouthfeel, it's probably appropriate. There is some good carbonation. It actually has a nice spritzy component to it. It's not over-carbonated, but it also doesn't have like any soft, smooth, creamy vibes. Like a beer like this, I want to have like a nice creaminess to it to accentuate the hazelnut and the barrel aging, the vanilla tones, and what I thought this was going to be super sweet, honestly, or sweeter than the one that I did on Monday, and it's not. It's actually more bitter. It's a little bit acidic from the coffee. It's more dry. It just isn't as sweet as I anticipated it being. Yeah, but right up front, you get that roasty chocolate, passes through the palate, a little bit of that coffee roast, but also coffee bitterness, finishes dry, finishes decently bitter, and there's a little bit of nuttiness left on the palate, like it's not a clean finish. The barrel presence, it's barely, like I know that it has a barrel here, but I'm not getting any distinct characteristics. I could tell you, oh man, there's vanilla edges to this one, or you know, there's nuances of an oak tannin, or just straight on spirit. Like I can't tell you specifically is bourbon. I would say, okay, it's boozy. It seems like it's barrel aged, but it's kind of omnipresent, but like it's nowhere close to the predominant note. It's like the most subtle characteristic of everything in this beer. If I sound a little bit disappointed, it is because I am. I am a bit disappointed, just because coming from the review on Monday that I did, and I really liked that beer, I think I gave it a low 4.25 or 4.25, somewhere around there. The thing about this beer is that it's not nearly as good as that beer, and I was hoping this one would be better. It's not a bad beer. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad beer in the least. It's a solid, good beer. But when you're talking coffee and hazelnut and barrel aged and 12%, and the fact that it's a huge beer, I was just expecting more from this one. So this is the most disappointing for me personally of the week. That said, it's still a good beer. I'm going to give it a 3.75 out of 5. So that was Flying Buffalo Coffee and Hazelnut. For me, it's a bit too thin. The coffee and hazelnut doesn't do what I was hoping it was going to do. I thought it was going to be like a hazelnut coffee, like cold brew in a 12% barrel-aged Russian Imperial Stout, and it didn't do that. I want this to be sweeter. I want this to be more complex. Definitely, when I say I want it to be more sweeter, the dryness on the back end and the bitterness kind of gets me personally. Now, some people out there might really like that, and if you like a drier, more bitter Russian Imperial Stout, a barrel-aged Russian Imperial Stout, coffee, hazelnut, the whole nine, then you'll probably enjoy this. For me, it's just a bit lacking personally, but I could see how somebody loves this. For me, 3.75 out of 5, I think is a fair score for what I am drinking and what I'm tasting in the glass. So if you've had this one, I'd be curious to know what you think about it. I definitely prefer the Great Lakes coffee version by far to this one, by almost like a half point. I think it's that much better. So if you have a chance to grab one of the two, I would recommend the Great Lakes coffee version. I could be in the minority, I have no idea, but that's how I feel about it. Anyway, that was Flying Buffalo Coffee and Hazelnut, 3.75 out of 5 from Griffin Claw. The last Griffin Claw beer I have this week, but it was really fun trying all the beers from them, so thank you very much, Jeff. I do appreciate it, and thanks to everybody for stopping by for another beer review. Until tomorrow in day 6, cheers.